fantasy football draft season gets closer and closer to us, here are some players that I am absolutely falling in love with and I can't seem to resist drafting in 2022. The first one will kick off in New York, and that's wide receiver Kadarius Toney. If you look at this, he had a 25% target rate per route run in 2021, which would have been 7th best in the NFL. And on top of that, his separation skills are just absolutely elite. If you check this out, look here, he was 7th in target rate at 28.9%. He was 5th in target rate versus man. He was 1st in juke rate. So this dude knows how to get separated, and I believe with this kind of metrics and on top of what they've done in New York to improve that offense, Kadarius Toney is slated for a big year. The reason why I'm big on Kadarius Toney is because of his ADP. Currently, he's going as the wide receiver 46. Overall, he's going 115th, which means you can get a wide receiver with elite upside in the 9th round. That's just too juicy to pass up on. And this next running back is actually his teammate, and one that I actually was looking to avoid initially, but with the reports of how he's been progressing, it's been hard to ignore Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. For me, it's how well he's been progressing since the injury and also everything that New York has done in general. New York has done so much to improve their offense, especially in that offensive line, and this just bodes well overall for Saquon Barkley. And this report too that I got from NBC Edge was talking about how Saquon looked, quote unquote, very good early into camp. We also saw how utilized he was in his first preseason game. He had 4 carries for 13 yards. He also had 1 reception for about 8 yards. We saw a little glimpse of what offensive coordinator Mike Kappa is gonna do to feature Saquon Barkley. We're also seeing reports coming out of New York saying that the workload will be huge as long as Saquon is healthy. But this is another thing that gets me optimistic about Saquon, is that the New York Giants didn't do anything to add a threat to take any touches away from Saquon Barkley. And one last stat I want to share with you guys is this. And in a down season in 2021, Saquon Barkley had a 13.3% target share, which would have been top 8 in the NFL. He was also top 8 in route participation. So 2 elite things that add so much value at the running back position. But wait, it gets better. With the upside that Saquon Barkley has, he's not costing you much. He's going right now as the 13th overall running back. He's going overall 24th, which means you can get a top elite running back at a 2nd round cost. People tend to forget he's only 25 years old and he is really slated for a big season as long as he's healthy in 2022. This next wide receiver was one that made me a little bit skeptical, only because he was going to a bad franchise, but I started realizing you have to follow the money in the NFL. Teams are going to be incentivized to want to utilize these players, especially after signing big contracts, and this player is wide receiver Christian Kirk out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the first thing I wanted to look at is when you're looking at what he's currently going for in dynasty leagues, you can see that he's actually highly coveted in these high stakes leagues, which means there is something we should be paying attention to when it comes to looking at Christian Kirk as a potential wide receiver for your roster. But even beyond that, when you look at the 7 games that he didn't play with DeAndre Hopkins last year in 2021, he averaged about 7 targets per game. He was also 8th in contested catch rate, also was 12th in total route wins in 2021, which tells you that this is a wide receiver that can get the contested ball and can also be efficient whenever you're targeting him in general. For me, it's the draft price that he's currently going for. He's right now going as the wide receiver 42. He's going overall as the 101st player off the draft board, which means you can get a potential wide receiver 1 for only a 9th round cost. Now, before I get into this next wide receiver, be sure to follow and also hit that like button if you're getting value thus far. Now, this next wide receiver is part of an organization that has been doing bad for so long, and that is Elijah Moore out of the New York Jets. I know, I get it, the Jets haven't done much, but there is so much to be said about what could potentially be of Elijah Moore in 2022. For starters, when we look at what he did in 2021, let's look at the efficiency. Elijah Moore was 9th in route win rate, but was 15th in win rate versus man coverage, and he also was a top 20 wide receiver when it came to contested catch rate. And it gets even better. From week 9 to week 13, he was the wide receiver 2, averaging 20.1 points per game. And I get it, the Jets drafted Garrett Wilson in the 1st round, but I would much rather go with the proven entity than the uncertainty with Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore is being easily overlooked considering he's going as the wide receiver 35, and overall he's going 87th, which means you can get him in the 7th to 8th round range for a phenomenal value. And this next running back is a player that I'm having my eyes on, and it's wide Miles Sanders from the Philadelphia Eagles. First and foremost, Pro Football Focus has ranked the Philadelphia Eagles as the #1 offensive line going into the season. The Eagles ranked second in rushing attempts, and they were first in rushing yards. And on top of that, Miles Sanders was very efficient in 2021. Check out these stats. He was third in true yards per carry with 5.2. He was fifth in breakaway run rate, also 10th in yards per touch. So the dude is efficient and he has an elite offensive line. And check this out as well. He didn't have a single touchdown in 2021, but I give him a lot of slack because of the injuries that he dealt with. I mean, he missed about 35% of his games in 2021. But what truly is the kicker for me is his ADP. Right now, Miles Sanders' ADP has him at running back 27. Overall, he's going 71st off the board, which means you can get Miles Sanders right now at only a 6th to 7th round cost. If you found this video useful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and check out some of these other videos where I go over different draft strategies and players to avoid in 2022.